Hello, my name is Earl Terry, and I sign my name this way. My pronouns are he, his, and him. I am an Afro-Mexican, gay, deaf-blind, cisgender male. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I moved back from the East Coast after living there for 20 years. I graduated from Gallaudet University with a degree in sign language education. My passion for art began at the Phoenix Day School for the Deaf and has stayed with me all these years until the time I met this person who worked at the Dyer Art Center. And that's where my position as curator began. The Black Deaf Art exhibit held this year is actually our very second exhibit, and the theme is Black is Black, Blackety AF. Our first art exhibit focusing on Black deaf artists was held 5 years ago, and the theme was Unfolding the Soul of Black Deaf Poetry. Oftentimes, an issue that arises in the deaf community is someone who says something like, "Oh, you're Black? I'm colorblind. I don't see any color in the deaf community." And that saying serves to erase that person's experience as a Black person. I also want to address that it doesn't matter how dark your skin is, whether if you're on the lighter side or the darker side, you're still Black. Black is Black, period. And a real hot issue lately is Black ASL and Black Lives Matter, which has actually been a very hot issue from early 2010 until recently, where it's gained greater recognition. And there is racism within the deaf community, I want you to know. I want to talk about intersectionality. Intersectionality is very important to understand because it's not just about your identity. There are several other factors involved that can be experienced. Various isms such as sexism, racism, ableism, vidism, to name a few. And with intersectionality, you have your identity and issues that are important to me. And your identity, that's considered the intersectionality, and not one of those issues or points takes precedence. What I want people to take from our art exhibits is to get people to think and to start a conversation with their peers. And this is just the beginning. This started back in 2020 of September and will continue till about August 2021. I'm working with 3 other curators. I'm working with Tarika Florence, Felicia Williams, and Najama Johnson. Our art exhibit has several themes. For example, we cover exploitation of labor. In what way? Well, when Black people were taken from their motherland and brought to the Americas, they were branded as slaves and made to labor and forced labor. And that continues today. The exploitation of Black people continues. For example, the focus on athletics and sports for Black people instead of education. The second theme is the Black body. You know, during slavery, the slave masters would beat and whip the Black slaves and desecrate their bodies, but they couldn't take away their Blackness nor their Black pride. The third theme is the Black individual, highlighting the originality which cannot just be copied or imitated. Black abilities and all that it entails, but sadly has been ignored, and the Black values have been treated as inferior. Fourth theme is Black identity. In what way? Well, our natural hair, our skin, our lips, our noses. People oftentimes love those features and want to appropriate them for themselves by wearing dreadlocks, getting lip implants, and plastic surgery, as a few examples. The fifth theme is the unwavering legacy of the Black woman. Throughout history, there have been misogyners, evil people who denigrate and look down on Black women. Our art exhibit features the Black woman and highlights how precious and loved they are within our community. And we stand in solidarity of Black women and are promoting the hashtag Black Girl Magic. There's a quote from Malcolm X, which he says, "The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman." The sixth theme that we cover is Black power. We're proud to be Black. Oftentimes you'll hear people say, "Yeah, I have my hot sauce in my bag." Proud of it. And they appropriate that from Black people. You'll notice Black Lives Matter is now all lives matter. We work in solidarity as a Black community. Why? And persevere? Because we are Black AF. I've developed an online course entitled Orature and Literature in the Black Deaf Community. You may wonder, what is orature? Well, it's two words, oral and literature, forming one word, orature, which means there is no written record of the stories or history. They are spoken or signed stories or works passed down through the generations. In this course, we'll explore African American storytelling. This movement showcases the history, tradition, and culture. The stories are told by Black artists themselves. We'll also look at the parallels in the Black deaf community, which also has very unique stories and history, tradition, and culture. For example, Black ASL in the Black deaf community. In this course, we'll look at Black deaf performances and poetry by the Black deaf community in America. In our history, Black and white people were kept separate during the Jim Crow era. Before the 1950s, the Black community had its own churches and libraries, etc. And the white community did too. That meant that the Black deaf community and the white deaf community did as well. That meant that the two communities were kept apart too. The white deaf communities had their own schools for the deaf, and the Black deaf community had what's called Negro schools for the deaf. They remained separate until Jim Crow was abolished, and all the white and Black kids were essentially forced to integrate, including the deaf kids. When the deaf kids were integrated, they didn't understand each other because the Black kids were used to using Black ASL. And because the white kids couldn't understand BASL, they began to look down on BASL as inferior, which made using BASL embarrassing for Black students. So the Black kids stopped using their language in order to learn ASL so they could communicate with the other white kids, until Dr. Carolyn McCaskill and other researchers formed the Black Research Project, including Dr. Joseph Hill, when they released their groundbreaking research by publishing a book where they officially recognized Black ASL.